Welcome back, my friends. Currently, we're on day 329 of Russia's disastrous invasion of Ukraine, and here's the latest situation reports. Germany and the United States are playing a game of chicken over sending tanks to Ukraine. Germany is saying it won't allow Leopard 2 tanks to go to Ukraine unless the United States first sends Abrams tanks, which isn't happening anytime soon. So what the heck is going on here? There are more than 2,300 variants of the Leopard 2 tank in various NATO and European stockpiles, but transferring them to Ukraine takes the approval of Berlin, which isn't forthcoming, nor will Germany send them directly. So about a month ago, Germany was saying, we don't want to be the first nation to allow tanks to go to Ukraine. So the United Kingdom stepped up and they said, we're going to send Challenger tanks to Ukraine. What was Germany's response? Germany's response is now, well, we don't want to have tanks go to Ukraine unless the United States first specifically sends Abrams tanks. But the Pentagon doesn't want to do this. Here's a quote from Undersecretary of Defense Colin Kahl, and he says Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin has been very focused on not providing the Ukrainians a system they can't repair, they can't sustain, and they over the long term can't afford because that's not being helpful. So here is a clip of the Prime Minister of Poland saying that they got 14 Leopard 2 tanks ready to go to Ukraine.
As we said, we are making we earmarked our 14 Leopards tanks, and now we wait also for Leopards from Denmark, Finland, Germany, and tanks from the other countries of the European Union, because we wanted to inspire others to actually gather more tanks to have potentially 60, 70, up to 100 of very modern tanks which can make a difference on the battlefield in Ukraine.
So this is the Prime Minister of Poland saying, we want to send the tanks, let us send the tanks. And Germany is saying no still. There are other countries that would follow, like Denmark and Finland, potentially Spain, maybe even Canada, as soon as Berlin gives the go-ahead. And Poland has probably at this point had enough of Germany's nonsense. Here is a quote from Poland's Prime Minister. He also said, consent is of a secondary importance here. We will either obtain this consent quickly or we will do the right thing ourselves. So Poland is prepared to tell Germany to go F off and we're going to send the tanks anyways. What would be the consequence of that? Well, I guess the consequence would be Poland wouldn't be allowed to buy German arms in the future. But if Germany is going to block nations from helping Ukraine, a democratic ally, then Europe should just stop buying German arms. This is getting ridiculous. So this is what Olaf Scholz currently looks like, saying, no, 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 we don't want to be the first nation to allow tanks to go. Great Britain steps up, and then they're saying, no, 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 the United States needs to send Abrams tanks first. Here's the joke online. The United States should send 14 Abrams tanks tomorrow and then just park them in Kyiv and then demand Scholz stop lying, obfuscating, stalling, blocking, and approve the delivery of Leopard 2 tanks. The other joke is that the United States could send fake inflatable Abrams tanks to Ukraine, not to fool the Russians, but to fool the Germans. That's how absurd this debate is getting. And here's the honest truth. Where is military aid to Ukraine coming from? This is from January to October. This doesn't even include the $45 billion that Congress approved for this entire year in December. The United States has provided more direct military aid to Ukraine than every other country combined by a factor of 3. So potentially, what could be Olaf Scholz's justification for demanding that the United States provide Abrams tanks before he gives permission for other countries to supply Leopard 2 tanks? Germany doesn't even have to send tanks. All they have to do is allow other countries that already bought and paid for these tanks to be able to send them to Ukraine. If you want to offend and upset your allies, you're doing it, Germany. As an American, I'm offended that you would make this ultimatum, this demand, after everything that the United States has been doing for Ukraine and for Europe. I'm getting fired up here. So Germany is completely missing their moment in history. And here is a clip of the Finnish Prime Minister at Davos. She's been absolutely incredible. Let's watch this 30-second clip together.
We don't know when the war will end, but we have to make sure that it will end, Ukrainians win. I don't think that there's any other choice. If Russia would win the war, then we would only see decades of this kind of behavior ahead of us. I think other countries are looking very closely what is happening now in Ukraine. And if Russia would win, then it would send a message that you can invade another country, you can attack another country, and you can gain from that.
So the world's Western Democratic Alliance, after 11 months, I think thankfully they're on the same page. Russia cannot win this war. Russia cannot be appeased or given any concessions because this will just lead to decades of future wars. If Ukraine can win, this will prevent decades of future wars. And this really is history repeating themselves. This is the Munich Agreement of 1938. Let's go ahead and refresh ourselves on the history. And Adolf Hitler was saying, there are ethnic-speaking Germans in the Sudetenland of Czechoslovakia. They're being oppressed by that evil Czechoslovakian government. This territory used to belong to Germany anyways. We should respect historical borders. Let us invade with our military and take this land. If you let us take this land, we promise we will never attack any other country again. This was the Munich Agreement of 1938. Here are the leaders of France and the United Kingdom meeting with Adolf Hitler and Mussolini. And if you give a dictator something that he wants today, he's not going to be happy. He's going to keep going. So here is the famous moment, Neville Chamberlain saying peace in our time, holding an agreement signed by Adolf Hitler saying, we're never going to attack anyone ever again. Putin's word today is as honest and truthful and valuable as Hitler's word was in 1938. So here's the map, and it's history repeating itself. Putin is saying there is ethnic-speaking Russians in this territory who are being oppressed by that evil government in Ukraine. This territory used to belong to Russia anyways. We should respect historical borders. Give us this territory, give us this concession, and we promise there will be peace in our time. I'm sure Putin is even willing to sign a piece of paper promising that this is the end. He'll never attack any of his other neighbors ever again. But here's the problem. On Russian state TV, they've openly admitted this. They've said any territory that used to belong to the Russian Empire, the Russian Tsars, belongs to the Kremlin today, belongs to the Russians. Sure, countries can technically have their own borders and have their own flags like Belarus, but countries do not have the right of self-determination. They cannot choose their own economic, political, or military decisions. Everything has to be approved by Moscow, or else the Russian military is going to attack you. So if Putin can just win in Ukraine or get some kind of concession from Western leaders, then he's going to wait 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, whatever, and the Russians are going to do this again. They're going to invade their neighbors in the Caucasus, in Central Asia, or worst case scenario, a NATO country. Future wars are being prevented if Ukraine can win. So we got some good news, and the Ukrainian military might have some new capabilities starting very soon. On Friday, the United States is going to announce that Stryker armored vehicles will be delivered to Ukraine, as well as the ground-launched small diameter bomb, GLSDB. This can be fired from the HIMARS and M270, And I've mentioned this in previous videos that this might be coming soon. And Ukraine's newest weapon should worry Russia's Navy and Air Force, according to friend of the channel, retired U.S. Lieutenant General Ben Hodges. On Wednesday, he said that a weapon the United States will reportedly soon provide to Ukraine should cause panic within Russia's military ranks. So if you don't know what GLSDB is, it will reduce sanctuary for Russians. Life is about to start getting very uncomfortable for the Russian Navy, Air Force, and ammunition handlers in Crimea, as well as the repair crews on the Kerch Strait Bridge. So if you don't know what this is, it's an M26 rocket motor that the United States currently has a lot of and doesn't know what to do with. These used to deliver cluster munitions that the United States is trying to phase out. In addition, it's a GBU-39 small diameter bomb. The United States has plenty of these. So Boeing and Saab came up with the idea of putting these two components together to create a new weapon system to give to the Ukrainians. Somebody made a concept video how the GLSDB system would work, and it's a precision-guided bomb. It's as accurate as a HIMARS strike. So a Ukrainian defender will be entering in the GPS coordinates. Once again, it's fired from either the HIMARS or M270 system. The rocket booster will do most of the work, getting it most of the way there. The precision bomb then detaches, and there's actually wings that give it the ability to glide through the air. It's then going to hit its target with pinpoint accuracy. So this will almost double the strike capability for the Ukrainians. Currently with HIMARS and GIMLRs, they can only strike at about 80 kilometers. So this will almost double it to 150. This gets all of the coasts to the Sea of Azov in play, as well as part of Crimea. So let's talk numbers, and I went online to try and figure out how much does one of these GLSDB bombs cost, and the per unit cost is about $40,000. So here's the question. Which would Ukraine rather have for $1 million worth of stuff from the United States? 25 of these GLSDB bombs that can go about 150 kilometers and can't be shot down. This is the important part. If Russian air defense systems can't shoot down a GIMLRs launched from a HIMARS, I guarantee you they're not going to be able to shoot down this either. Or a single $1 million ATACMS missile. In the media, they like to talk about ATACMS because this is a well-known system, and yes, it has a range of 300 kilometers, but the problem with ATACMS, and I think this is ultimately the reason why the United States isn't supplying them, is more than likely they can be shot down. If a Russian S-300 or 400 air defense system can't shoot down this giant honking missile, then why are they there? What good are they to the Russians? So I think this has been the plan of the United States all along, to give the Ukrainians a greater distance, 150 kilometers, but to make sure that these bombs actually hit their targets. And if we go back to the map, you'll notice that if the Ukrainians can push sometime this spring and take the city of Melitopol, then all of Crimea will be within this 150 kilometer range. This is going to make a huge difference. Now we'll go ahead and mention the strengths of the ATACMS. The warhead, the payload, is much larger, so this is a more destructive bomb. But if these GLSDBs are hitting fuel warehouses or ammunition depots, things that go boom anyways, it doesn't really matter that it's not that powerful of a bomb. So let's now take this cost comparison to the max and relate it to the story about Abrams tanks. The amount of money that has been allocated by Congress to go to Ukraine is finite. It's not infinite. So which would Ukraine rather have for $10 million? A single Abrams tank that in the long run they won't be able to maintain or afford to operate, or 250 of these GLSDB bombs that can go 150 kilometers? I honestly don't know what Ukraine's answer is. I know they really want tanks, but if they can get Leopards, Leopard 2s from European partners, and the United States can start supplying thousands of these GLSDB bombs, this is going to have a huge impact on the war. The next piece of good news is that the New York Times is reporting that the United States is tapping into a vast stockpile of American ammunition in Israel to help Ukraine. The Pentagon and the Israelis reached an agreement to move about 300 155mm artillery shells to Ukraine. This is fantastic news. Additionally, the Netherlands has announced they will also send a Patriot air defense system to Ukraine. There's currently 100 Ukrainian defenders in Oklahoma training on the Patriot air defense system, and this will bring their total count up to 3 once these arrive in Ukraine. Since we already talked about Hitler in this video, we might as well talk about stupid comments from Lavrov. Moscow compares the West's Russia policy to Hitler's final solution. Okay. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov on Wednesday likened Western policies on Russia to Nazi leader Adolf Hitler's planned final solution for Europe's Jews. Here's some quotes. Western countries, he said, are by proxy through Ukraine waging war against our country. The task is the same, the final solution of the Russian question, just as Hitler wanted to solve the Jewish question. It is not the first time Lavrov has invoked Hitler and the Jews in his outspoken anti-Western remarks. Here's the problem, Russia, is you're the one arguing for genocide of the Ukrainian identity. Medvedev has publicly called for a genocide of anything Ukrainian. In addition, what do the Jews of Russia think of that comparison? And here's an article from the Times of Israel. Moscow's chief rabbi is in exile after refusing to back the Ukraine invasion. So this article is from June, and the highest-ranking rabbi in Russia was Pinchas Goldschmidt, and he was approached by the FSB in March and told, you need to be publicly supporting this invasion of Ukraine, or else you might fall out a window. Pinchas Goldschmidt, rather than support this immoral war, chose to flee Russia. The highest-ranking Jewish rabbi in Russia is currently living in exile, and he's done news interviews and media appearances telling all of his supporters and followers, any Jews in Russia, you need to get out. This clip from DW News is actually from September, and he perfectly predicted that mobilization was coming. He told anyone that's Jewish in Russia, or any Russian that wants out, get out now, or else Russia is going to mobilize you and get you killed in Ukraine.
I'm concerned about the future of the Jewish community in Russia, and I'm not the only one concerned. Thousands and tens of thousands of Jews have left the country since the beginning of the invasion.
A prominent politician, former minister, Nathan Sharansky, who was, as you know, a dissident who was jailed in the Soviet Union, a refusenik as they were called at the time, he says that if Jews have the chance to get out of Russia, they should take it. They should go. Do you support that view?
Yes, I support this view, and for many reasons. And
it's not a good look for Russia when they compare themselves to the Jews of World War II, and the Jews of now are saying, get out of Russia. Russia is the fascist state. Let's do a follow-up on the apartment building in Dnipro that was bombed by the Russians. The search for survivors has officially ended, and the body of another child has been found in the debris, bringing the death toll of the attack to 45. In total, at least 6 children were killed in the strike. The strike also left 79 injured, including 16 children. So this news, this information has gotten into Russia, and there are some people in Russia that care. Several were detained at a makeshift Moscow memorial to the Dnipro strike victims. Muscovites started placing flowers at the statue of the Ukrainian poet Lesla Ukrainka soon after grisly images of the attack's aftermath appeared online. The memorial, which included a framed photo of the destroyed tower block, swelled inside after residents witnessed the flowers being removed early Tuesday. So in a sign of sympathy, solidarity, maybe even remorse, flowers were being placed at this statue in Moscow to a Ukrainian poet. And in fascist Russia, this isn't allowed. You're not allowed to show empathy or sympathy for the innocent civilians your military is murdering. So they parked a police prison bus next to the statue, and anyone trying to leave flowers at the statue is arrested on sight. I feel like the theme of this video is history keeps repeating itself. And let's remember that in 1999, apartment buildings in Russia were bombed. There is speculation that the Russian government, Putin himself, did this, but let's go ahead and assume that this was terrorist attacks on Russian civilians blowing up these apartment buildings. And here is a clip of President Putin from 1999 talking about people who bomb and blow up civilian apartment buildings.
Цель ограды священная. Вот их цель. Цель террориста? Да. Человек в здравом рассудке, мне кажется, никогда не может решиться на подобное поступки. Сорвать живую лету. Ничего не поедет. Ночью. Абсолютно. В голове не укладывается. Невероятно. Невероятно. Это нечеловеческая жестокость. Просто мы должны понять, что мы должны противостоять. Этому можно противостоять только силой.
So here's the quote. A person in their sound mind can never dare to commit such crimes, blowing up a building with people alive in there. We can only oppose this with force. Well said, President Putin. Tanks are on the way. Final couple feel-good clips I have for you guys. The first one is of a Ukrainian defender interacting with the local wildlife.
Слава Україні! Молодець. Гоу, дерев'я. А ну, слава Україні! Героям слава, правильно, молодець.
I wonder what that bird is saying. Final clip I have for you is of Ukrainians meeting in one of Kyiv's metro stations in order to practice a traditional dance. Looks like fun. That's all for this update video. Glory to the heroes, glory to Ukraine. If you found this video informative, give me a thumbs up. Best way to support my channel. Comments or questions, let me know down below. I love hearing from you guys. Till the next video, take care, be safe.